The capture Jace Morrison had always prided himself on his diplomatic skills, but diplomacy meant nothing when plasma rounds were scorching the crystalline ground around him. The reconnaissance mission to planet Nethys had gone sideways the moment. His stealth ship's cloaking failed over the alien city of Viridian Spires. Now, crouched behind a fallen transport pod, he watched his extraction team's ship disappear into the copper-tinted sky without him. The silence that followed was more terrifying than the firefight. Nethys was known for its sophisticated interrogation techniques, and as a human diplomat carrying classified information about Earth's defensive capabilities, Jace knew he was valuable cargo. He pressed his back against the warm metal of the pod, trying to steady his breathing as footsteps approached, not the heavy boots of soldiers, but the soft, deliberate pad of bare feet on stone. She appeared around the corner like a predator who had been toying with prey. Vexra Keth stood nearly 7 feet tall, her skin a translucent pale blue that seemed to shimmer with embedded crystalline formations. Her silver hair fell in intricate braids adorned with small metal rings that chimed softly as she moved. Most striking were her eyes, completely black, lacking visible irises, yet somehow expressive in their depth. "Commander Jace Morrison," she said, her voice carrying a musical quality despite its firmness. "Diplomatic Corps, Earth Federation, age 32, unmarried, no children." She tilted her head, studying him. "You may stand. Running would be inadvisable." Jace slowly rose, hands visible, mind racing through his training protocols. Vexra stepped closer, close enough that he could see the way light refracted through her crystalline skin patterns. She wore form-fitting dark clothing that seemed to shift color with her movements, and carried no visible weapons, which somehow made her more intimidating, not less. "I am Vexra Keth, Psychological Operations Specialist," she continued, circling him slowly. "You will come with me." "Under what authority?" Jace asked, falling back on diplomatic protocol even in these circumstances. Paused her circling, standing directly in front of him. When she smiled, it was neither cruel nor kind, simply curious. "Under the authority of superior firepower and your current lack of alternatives." She gestured toward a sleek transport vehicle that materialized from what had appeared to be empty. Some kind of advanced cloaking technology. As they approached, Jace noticed other alien figures in the distance, watching but not approaching. Clearly, Vexra operated with considerable autonomy. The journey through Viridian Spires revealed a city of impossible beauty towers that grew like crystal formations, reaching toward the twin suns, connected by bridges of light that seemed to bend and flow like water. Despite his situation, Jace found himself genuinely awed by the alien architecture. "You appreciate beauty," Vexra observed, watching his expression. "This is noted." They arrived at what appeared to be a governmental complex built into the side of a massive crystal formation. Vexra led him through corridors lined with the same light bridges he'd seen outside, until they reached a door that dilated open at her approach. The room beyond was unexpected spacious, comfortable with what appeared to be furniture adapted for human proportions. There were even books, though he couldn't read the alien script, and something that might have been art on the walls. "This will be your accommodation," Vexra said, stepping aside to let him enter. Jace turned to face her, finding her standing in the doorway, one hand resting against the frame. "And if I choose to leave?" Her black eyes seemed to glitter with amusement. "You're not leaving this room, human." It wasn't a threat. It was simply a statement of fact, delivered with the calm certainty of someone who had never been disobeyed. The door sealed behind her, leaving Jace alone with the unsettling realization that his real ordeal was just beginning. His 3 days passed before Vexra returned, and Jace had spent every hour analyzing his prison. The room was comfortable, almost luxurious, with what appeared to be a food synthesizer that produced surprisingly palatable meals adapted for human dietary needs. The walls displayed shifting patterns of light that seemed almost hypnotic, and he suspected they might be recording his every movement and vital sign. When the door finally dilated, Vexera entered carrying what looked like a small holographic projector. She had changed from her dark operational clothing into something flowing and iridescent that reminded Jace of liquid starlight. Her crystalline skin patterns seemed more pronounced, catching and reflecting the room's ambient lighting. "You've been pacing," she observed, setting the device on the central table. 17.3 kilometers over the past 72 hours. You follow predictable patterns, clockwise circuits when anxious, counterclockwise when calculating. Jace stopped mid-step, unsettled by the precision of her observation. "What do you want from me?" Instead of answering, Vexera activated the projector. Three-dimensional images filled the space between them, scenes from Earth that made Jace's breath catch. Cities, forests, oceans, and people going about their daily lives with a casual intimacy that felt impossibly distant now. "Your species fascinates me," Vexera said, settling on to what appeared to be her version of a chair, more like a crystal formation that had grown to accommodate her frame. "You wage war with the same passion that you create art. You destroy and preserve with equal intensity." She gestured, and the images shifted to show human artistic achievements, paintings, sculptures, music visualized as flowing colors. "Explain this to me. Why do humans create beauty in the face of their own mortality?" The question caught Jace off guard. He'd expected interrogation about military capabilities, not philosophy. "Maybe because we're mortal," he said slowly. "Maybe. Beauty is how we touch something eternal." Vexera's head tilted, a gesture he was beginning to recognize as intense interest. "Eternal? Your species believes in continuation beyond physical existence?" "Some do. Others think this life is all we have, which makes it more precious." Jace found himself moving closer to the holographic display, drawn by images of home. "What about your people? What do you believe happens after death?" "We do not die as you understand it," Vexera replied. "Our consciousness transfers to the crystal matrices that form our world's core. We become part of Nethys itself." She paused, studying his expression. "But we do not create as you do. We preserve, we maintain, we endure. We do not ... improvise." Over the following hours, their conversation meandered through topics Jace never expected to discuss with an alien captor. Vexera asked about human emotional responses, about art and music, about the concept of individual identity versus collective belonging. She seemed particularly fascinated by human romantic relationships, though her questions were clinical rather than personal. "You form pair bonds," she said, manipulating the hologram to show couples in various settings. "Not for reproduction alone, but for emotional satisfaction. This seems ... inefficient." "Efficiency isn't everything," Jace replied, then dared to ask, "Do your people form emotional attachments?" For the first time, Vexera hesitated. Her crystalline patterns seemed to dim slightly. "We form ... connections, but they are regulated, purposeful. Emotional chaos is considered a weakness." "And what do you consider it?" Jace asked softly. Vexera's black eyes met his, and for a moment, her composed mask slipped. He saw something, almost vulnerable in her expression: curiosity. "Yes, but also longing. I am beginning to think your chaos might be more valuable than our order." She stood abruptly, deactivating the hologram. "You will rest now. Tomorrow we continue." As she moved toward the door, Jace called out, "Vexera." She paused without turning. "Thank you for the conversation." Her shoulders tensed slightly. "I am simply gathering data, Commander Morrison." But as the door sealed behind her, Jace caught something in her voice that suggested otherwise. Whatever game she was playing, it was affecting her too. The connection be the 10th day. Their sessions had evolved into something resembling friendship rather than interrogation. Vexera brought new holographic content each time, sometimes human culture, sometimes glimpses of Nethan society that Chase suspected were classified. She had begun sitting closer during their discussions, and he noticed she had started wearing colors that shifted toward warmer hues in his presence. "Your people have a concept called homesickness," Vexera said, watching Jace's reaction to images of Earth's sunrise. Describe this feeling. Jace set down the strange fruit she had brought him, apparently a Nethan delicacy that tasted like honey and starlight. "It's like a physical ache for a place that shaped you. Not just missing it, but feeling incomplete without it." "Incomplete," Vexera repeated, her crystalline patterns pulsing slowly. "I understand this more than I should." Something in her tone made Jace look at her more carefully. "You're not supposed to be here, are you? Not like this, having these conversations." Vexera's composure cracked slightly. "My orders were to extract information through psychological pressure. Instead, I find myself ... She paused, seeming to struggle with the words. "Learning from you. What happens when your superiors realize you're not following their plan?" "That is my concern." Vexera stood and began pacing a habit she seemed to have picked up from watching him. "General Corax expects results. Evidence that humans can be broken, controlled, or eliminated efficiently." Jace felt a chill of understanding. "This isn't just about me, is it? You're studying human psychology for a larger invasion plan." Vexera stopped pacing, her back to him. "War is coming, Jace Morrison. My people believe humans are too chaotic, too unpredictable to coexist with. They want to understand you in order to defeat you." The use of his first name sent an unexpected warmth through him. Over their days together, she had become less alien and more ... individual. He had begun to notice the way her skin patterns brightened when she was intrigued, the musical quality of her laugh when he described human comedy, the graceful way she moved that reminded him of dancers he'd seen on Earth. "And what do you believe?" he asked softly. Vexera turned to face him, and Jace was struck by the conflict visible in her expression. "I believe I have learned too much." She approached him slowly, stopping just within arm's reach. This close, he could see that her crystalline skin formations weren't random. They formed intricate patterns that seemed to pulse with her heartbeat, if she had one. "May I?" she asked, raising one hand. Jace nodded, not entirely sure what he was agreeing to. Vexera placed her palm against his chest, over his heart. Her skin was surprisingly warm, and where she touched him, he felt a strange tingling sensation, as if some kind of energy was passing between them. "Your cardiac rhythm increases when you speak of Earth," she observed, but her voice had lost its clinical tone. "It also increases when you look at me." Jace covered her hand with his own, marveling at the strange texture of her skin, smooth like glass, but yielding like flesh. "Maybe because you remind me that beauty exists everywhere, even in the most unexpected places." Vexera's breathing changed, becoming shallower. Her free hand rose to touch his face, tracing his features with gentle curiosity. "Your species forms bonds quickly. Is this normal?" "No," Jace admitted, leaning into her touch. "This is exceptional." For a moment, they stood suspended in possibility, the weight of their respective loyalties hanging between them like a blade. Then Vexera stepped back, her patterns dimming to cool blues and purples. "I should not have done that," she said, but she made no move toward the door. "Vexera," Jace said, "whatever's coming, whatever your people are planning, it doesn't have to happen. There could be another way." Her black eyes searched his face. "You truly believe that?" "I have to, because the alternative is losing everything worth saving, on both our worlds. Vexera nodded slowly, and Jace saw something shift in her expression. When she spoke again, it was with the voice of someone who had just made a decision that would change everything. Then perhaps it is time for you to meet General Corix. The choice of General Thane Corix arrived like a storm front, his presence filling the comfortable chamber with cold menace. Unlike Vexera's elegant crystalline formations, Corix's skin was dark and angular, with sharp metallic inclusions that caught the light like embedded blades. He stood nearly 8 feet tall, wearing ceremonial armor that seemed to absorb rather than reflect light. "Enforcer Kef," he said, his voice carrying harmonics that made Jace's teeth ache. "Explain why this human still breathes." Vexera stood at rigid attention, but Jace could see the tension in her posture. "General, my psychological analysis requires more time. The human mind is more complex than anticipated." Corix's laugh was like breaking glass. 12 days, Enforcer. 12 days you have spent in this chamber, and our strategic database contains no actionable intelligence. His attention shifted to Jace. "Human, you will now provide defensive coordinates for your homeworld's primary installations." "I can't." "Do that," Jace replied, proud that his voice remained steady. Corix nodded as if this response was expected. From his armor, he withdrew what appeared to be a crystalline blade that hummed with energy. "Enforcer Kef has been gentle with you. I am not so inclined." "General," Vexera stepped forward, positioning herself slightly between Corix and Jace. "My methods are producing results. Violence would compromise the psychological profile." "Your methods," Corix said, studying Vexera with predatory interest, "appear to have compromised you, Enforcer. Your skin patterns have shifted to mating frequencies. You have formed an attachment to the specimen." Jace felt his blood chill. In all their conversations, Vexera had never mentioned mating frequencies, or what her changing colors might signify. The implications hit him like a physical blow. She had been unconsciously advertising her attraction to him in ways he couldn't read, but other Nethans clearly could. "General, Vexera began, but Corix cut her off with a gesture. "The Council has lost patience. This human dies now, and you will observe the interrogation of his replacement, without the benefit of comfortable quarters or philosophical discussions." Corix raised the energy blade, but Vexera moved faster than Jace's eyes could follow. She struck Corix's wrist, deflecting the weapon, then positioned herself fully between them. "I cannot allow that," she said, her voice carrying new harmonics. That made the air itself seem to vibrate. Corix's expression shifted from anger to something like satisfaction. "There it is. The infection spreads." He activated a communication device, security detail to Chamber 7. "Enforcer Keth has been compromised by enemy influence." The next few moments happened in a blur. Vexera grabbed Jace's hand, her skin now blazing with patterns of gold and red. "We have perhaps 30 seconds before they override the door locks." "Vexera, what are you doing?" "Choosing," she replied, pressing something into his hand, a small crystalline device. "Activate this near any external wall. It will create an opening large enough for escape. What about you?" Her black eyes met his, and Jace saw fierce determination there. "I am making a choice that my people will call treason, and yours might call hope." Sounds from the corridor indicated approaching security forces. Vexera moved to the room's control panel, her fingers dancing over alien interfaces with practice. "Speed. The spaceport is 2 kilometers north," she said. "There is a maintenance craft in Bay 7. These codes will activate it." She pressed a data chip into his other hand. "Come with me," Jace said urgently. "VXAR." A paused in her preparations, turning to face him fully. In the space of a heartbeat, she crossed the room and kissed him. It was unlike anything Jace had ever experienced, not just the strange warmth of her lips, but a sense of connection that seemed to resonate through his entire being. When she pulled back, her skin patterns were blazing so brightly they nearly hurt to look at. I cannot. Not yet. Someone must delay pursuit, and someone must warn my people that there is another path. She touched his face gently. But this is not goodbye, Jace Morrison. I promise you this. The door began to glow as cutting. Tools attacked it from outside. Vexera pushed Jace toward the far wall. Go. Now. How will I find you again? You won't have to, Vexera said, moving back toward the door as it began to buckle. I will find you. Jace activated the crystalline device, and the wall dissolved into sparkling fragments. As he stepped through into the alien night, he heard the door finally give way, and the sounds of confrontation begin. Every instinct screamed at him to go back, to help her, but he knew that would make her sacrifice meaningless. He ran into the copper-tinted darkness, Vexera's promise echoing in his mind like a prayer. The escapee Nethin night was alive with bioluminescent flora that painted Jace's desperate flight in shades of blue and silver. Behind him, the governmental complex blazed with searchlights and the harsh harmonics of alarm systems. Vexera's crystalline device had given him a head start, but he could hear pursuit vehicles in the distance, their engines producing a sound like singing, crystals that grew closer with each passing minute. The spaceport materialized from the darkness like a technological oasis. Bay 7 was exactly where Vexera had indicated, and the maintenance craft she described sat waiting, a sleek vessel that looked more grown than built, its hull incorporating the same crystal metal hybrid technology he'd seen throughout Nethin. Civilization dot as he approached the craft. Jace's heart nearly stopped. Vexera stood beside it, her form partially concealed by the shadows, but unmistakable in her graceful proportions. Her crystalline patterns pulsed with deep purples and blues. Colors he had learned indicated pain or distress. You're hurt, he said, rushing to her side. Corax was. Displeased by my choice, Vexera replied, favoring her left arm. But General, Corax will trouble no one again. Jace stared at her. What did you do? What was necessary? Vexera activated the craft systems with the data chip she had given him earlier. His death will buy us time, but not much. By dawn, every Nethin military unit will be hunting us. They climbed into the craft together, Vexera settling into the pilot's position with fluid grace, despite her injury. As the vessel lifted off, Jace caught a glimpse of the complex they had escaped, now swarming with security forces and burning in several locations. Where can we go? Jace asked as they cleared the city's airspace. There is a place, Vexera said, her fingers dancing over crystalline control interfaces. An abandoned research station in the northern wastes. We will have sanctuary there while we decide our next course. A flight took them over landscapes that seemed carved from dreams, crystal forests that sang in the wind, vast lakes of liquid mercury that reflected the stars like mirrors, mountain ranges that pulsed with their own inner light. Despite their circumstances, Jace found himself mesmerized by the alien beauty. Your world is incredible, he said softly. Vexera glanced at him, her patterns brightening slightly. As is yours, perhaps that is what we must help our peoples understand, that beauty shared is beauty multiplied. They were interrupted by proximity alarms. Through the craft's transparent hull, Jace could see pursuit vessels approaching sleek predators that cut through the night sky with deadly purpose. They're faster than us, Vexera observed with clinical calm. Can we fight them? This is a maintenance vessel. We have no weapons. Vexera's hands moved over the controls, coaxing more speed from their craft. But we have something they do not expect. Which is? Vexera's smile was fierce and beautiful. We have nothing left to lose. She dove the craft toward a crystal canyon, using the terrain to break line of sight with their pursuers. Jace gripped his restraints as they wove between towering formations at speeds that seemed to defy physics. Behind them, weapons fire-lit up the canyon walls, sending cascades of crystal fragments into their wake. "Hold tight," Vexora warned, then rolled the craft inverted and dove into what appeared to be solid rock. Face. Jace's scream was cut short as they passed through what must have been a holographic projection, emerging into a vast underground cavern. Vexora brought the craft to rest on a landing pad that seemed to have been carved from the cavern floor itself. "The research station," she explained, "studying crystal resonance effects. Abandoned when the project was deemed too dangerous." They climbed from the craft into a space that took Jace's breath away. The cavern stretched beyond sight, its walls lined with crystal formations that pulsed with slow, rhythmic light. In the center, connected by bridges of grown crystal, stood a structure that seemed part building, part living organism. "We should be safe here," Vexora said, but she was watching the cavern entrance with wary eyes. "At least for a while." Jace took her uninjured hand in his, marveling again at the warmth of her strange skin. "What happens now?" Vexora turned to face him, her black eyes reflecting the cavern's ambient light. "Now we prove that understanding is possible. That two species can choose cooperation over conquest. And if we fail, then at least we will have had this," Vexora said, stepping closer. "This moment of connection across the void between worlds." When she kissed him this time, Jace felt that strange resonance again, not just physical attraction, but something deeper, a sense of completion, of two puzzle pieces finding their perfect fit. Around them, the crystal formations seemed to pulse in harmony with their heartbeats, as if the cavern itself approved of their union as they broke apart. Vexora's skin patterns shifted to warm golds and silvers colors that Jace was beginning to understand meant hope, love, and possibility. "So where do we start?" he asked. Vexara smiled, the expression transforming her alien features into something achingly beautiful. "We start with a message to both our worlds. A message that says, love is stronger than fear, and understanding more powerful than conquest." Outside, the search continued, but inside the crystal cavern, two beings from different worlds began planning a future that neither of their species had imagined. Possible. In the pulsing light of alien crystals, Jace Morrison and Vexora Keth discovered that the greatest adventures begin not with conquest, but with the courage to love across impossible distances.